How much cash do you have in your pocket right now? Go ahead, give me your lunch money. I'm just kidding. The reason I ask is because when your players have finished slaying the last enemy in the room, we as dungeon masters all know exactly what comes next: looting. But the question then becomes, how much gold do you actually give to your party? How much is fair? And at what point does it become too much gold? Now, I did a video a long time ago about the value of a gold piece. You can watch it right here. TLDR, there's no definitive answer. It really varies from table to table. Table. I know how to speak. And people use lots of different methods for determining what gold actually costs. Today, I want to talk about how much gold your low-level players, let's be specific, should be finding, like on average. And again, like any good video on DMing, the answer is kind of a big, it depends. Now, the truth is, if your players are finding 50 gold on a goblin they just looted in a cave, and we're using the standardized conversion where 1 gold is roughly $100, that's just kind of what I've seen most people default to. We can talk all about the actual value of gold in the comments, but let's just assume $100 is roughly equal to 1 gold. Then your players just found $5,000 on a creature that lives in a hole. The problem ultimately becomes simple. Overlooting can break the game's tiered system of play. And what I mean is, if you look at the Dungeon Master's Guide, page 36 and 37, has a section on tiers of play that breaks down what a party's power level, we'll call it that, is at each of the 4 quarters of the levels, right? 1 through 4, 5 through 9, I think, so on. You get it. This states that at levels 1 through 4, they should be carrying mostly mundane gear and very few uncommon permanent items. Now, the very next page has a nifty little table that shows you what their starting gear should be based on their levels. So you can see that at level 1 through 4, a party starts with only a couple of pieces of gold that they get from their background. Obviously, that's if you don't let them roll for it, or if you have some other sort of house rule. The point is that if players are rich by level 3, they stop caring about quest rewards, which is one of your primary plot hooks as dungeon masters. So the goal then becomes, how do you give enough gold to keep them hungry, but not so much that the local blacksmith looks like a peasant compared to your level 2 rogue? So let's talk about the first part, which is how much gold is too much. Well, luckily, we have another area that we can point to in our handy dandy player's handbook. So if you look at page 231 of the player's handbook, and I'm also looking at the newest edition, FYI, there is a breakdown of how much coin the average person makes. So if you're looking at the breakdown, you can see that a person living in a squalid condition, meaning very, very poor, essentially for free, living on the streets, they make about 1 silver piece per day. A poor person living paycheck to paycheck will make about 2 silver pieces. A person of modest means will make roughly a gold piece a day, and a wealthy person will make 4 gold pieces, while a noble or an aristocrat will make 10 gold pieces or more. If we're breaking that down by the $100 is 1 gold, that means that somebody living for free on the street with no money and no assets to their name, they are making $10 a day. Whereas a modest person will be making roughly $100, and a wealthy person is making $400 or more per day. So then it's up to you, the Dungeon Master, the merciful god of this world, to decide, are they really going to be finding $500 worth of stuff in someone's pocket every single time they fight? And if not, then how much should they be finding? Most people are paid daily in Dungeons and Dragons, I guess. I guess it's up to you as the DM if you want to have them paid like bi-weekly or monthly or direct deposit, whatever you want to do. The idea is that this is how much money they're making per day. So if a player loots a dead guard, then they're not going to find their life savings on their body. They are going to find the leftover silver from their previous day's wage, probably. Now, most people in a fantasy world, nope, let's cut that. So then you have to ask yourself, does it make sense for that person to have more than a day's pay on them? And honestly, the answer is that maybe it does. All you have to do is come up with a narrative reason. So if your players are looting that guard's body, maybe it's because that guard just robbed a shop. Maybe that guard is on their way to pay off a debt. But realistically, the average worker is going to carry maybe 2 or 3 silver. That's it. Now, if they're looting a noble, well, that noble might be carrying 10 or 20 gold, but remember, these rich people aren't going to be carrying heavy sacks of metal. And we can look at the player's handbook and determine that a single coin is, I think it's 1/3 of an ounce. I don't remember, but it does specifically state that 50 coins is a pound. Can you imagine carrying a pound of metal in your pockets? I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, but like, it's gonna be weighing a lot in your pocket. Like it just, objectively, it's just not, it just doesn't make sense. So realistically, those nobles are gonna be carrying gems that are worth X amount, or letters of credit, or platinum if you really like the sound of jingling coins. And I'm gonna be honest, gems are kind of my go-to, because if you have never stuck your hand in the bin of those plastic gems in front of the Pirates of the Caribbean gift shop at Disneyland, you are missing out. Then you also have to think about where they are spending it. If you try to pay for a 2 silver dinner, right, which is like roughly $20, with a gold piece, $100, in a really poor village, that innkeeper may literally not be able to make the change. Like, you just tipped them 400% or you're gonna walk away hungry. They may not have enough silver to give back to you, or they're gonna give it back to you in copper. Ultimately, getting rich is part of the fun. You want your party to earn gold. That is one of the best parts of playing Dungeons and Dragons, is being able to like build your castle and hire your hirelings and go on these great adventures and be able to throw money at all these magic items and walk around like a freaking bomb. But you want your players to work for it. And at least at my table, I want them to be creative about how they are earning that gold. And trust me when I say that if you've ever given away too much gold at your table, like I have, you realize really quickly how many different tools and options that gold unlocks for them to get around a lot of the obstacles and challenges you put in front of them, which again, maybe you're okay with, but I like my lower levels to be a little more challenging for my players. But when they have access to a lot of gold, they can simply hire somebody to get a lot of those problems out of the way. And that's not necessarily always what you want at your table. So here's the big fix, at least for me. Instead of stumbling across hundreds of dollars in a pocket, find a way to make the wealth a narrative beat. In other words, make the money a milestone that is part of your story or part of your quest. Instead of finding 100 gold or 1,000, or math, 10,000, 1,000? Instead of finding 100 gold on a bandit leader, find a bond that's worth some money, but they need to go exchange it. Or a bounty notice, which is even better because now they just have to drag this dead body in. So instead of 100 gold in his pocket, they now have to travel to a city. They have to interact with maybe some precarious NPCs or some dangerous NPCs to get their pay. Now, another really great way to sort of get around finding too much gold, and I love using the art object section from the Dungeon Master's Guide. So like, a silver vase or a silk tapestry that is really, really high in value, but these things are heavy, or they're fragile, or they're difficult to carry, or other people might want it. And on top of that, you have to find a specific buyer for it. So not only is it risky to carry, creating some narrative problems and by association some problem solving that they have to do, but they also then have to interact with others in order to even offload that stuff to get that gold. And then they have to decide when they get to the place that they need to get to, do we sell it legally for half of the price? Because that's what it says in the Dungeon Master's Guide, or is it the Player's Handbook? Either way, you get half of your gold when selling an item. You get half of its value back. Or they can sell it for more money, if not full price, illegally, which can be really fun, but also really risky. And that leads to a lot of other types of roles, like charisma roles, persuasion, intimidation, right? Things like that. What I'm trying to say is that when you're thinking about how much gold your players should get, there's kind of a lot to unpack there. And if you stop treating loot like a random number generator, just a number that comes to the top of your head, like, oh, I don't know, this person had 20 gold. When you start treating it like a piece of environmental storytelling? Why am I talking like this today? When you start treating it like environmental storytelling, then you're not gonna break your game by having them find gold. Instead, you're going to help yourself be the dungeon master. You're going to find ways to carry the story forward in other ways that wouldn't have happened if they hadn't found that body, if they hadn't looted that person, if they hadn't tried to sell that item. Anyways, let me know in the comments down below how much gold you give out after a battle. What are your caps? What are your personal rules or methods? Let me know. And if you want to help support the channel, watch me take on some Baldur's Gate 3 challenges. Right now I'm trying to do the Jack of all trades achievement, where I do one level in every single class that is available on Baldur's Gate 3. while also doing it on honor mode, so probably going to crash and burn epically. You can also get access to Patreon only posts, early access to videos, early access to some of the world building. I have a whole document that's coming out very soon on my World Maladea that I will open to the Patreon people so that I can get people sort of play testing and maybe get some thoughts on it. Then maybe, you know, think about becoming a Patreon member. And if you don't have the means, I don't want you to put yourself into any sort of debt for me. Just leave me some love in the comments. That helps a lot more than you know, and I really appreciate it. As always, thank you so much for watching. Forge on, my friends, and remember, down the alley, red door, knock 3 times, say the words ravioli, ravioli, give me the formioli, and they should let you in, probably. See you next time, adventurers.